In the last video, we downloaded Inertia and we created our GitHub repository and we pushed the code that we had into our GitHub repository. So in today's video, let's talk about CI/CD pipeline using Docker and GitHub Actions. What is CI/CD pipeline? A CI/CD pipeline is a system that automates test, build, and deploy code to deliver updates quickly and reliably. So what does it mean? In actual, a CI/CD pipeline is a process of automating the way we build, we test, and deploy code. For example, we created a new feature and then we push that feature into our feature branch. After that, we have to merge that code into our main branch. And immediately when we merge the code into our main branch, our CI/CD pipeline will be triggered. So what will it do? It will test that code and it will build the code and then it will create a Docker image. And then after creating the Docker image, it will push that Docker image into Docker Hub. So this is the process actually. And we shall see how we do that process step by step. So what are the tools used in forming or in creating our CI/CD pipeline? We have a tool called Docker. Docker lets you package your application with all dependencies into one container. So what does it mean? It means that we shall get all our applications dependencies, such as everything that you need for your application to run, into one unit, so that when you take that image into the cloud or when you send it to other developers, they don't need again to install the dependencies, or you don't need to go to your cloud server and then install all the dependencies. It is just packaged into one unit called Docker. So the next tool that we will use for our CI/CD pipeline is GitHub Action. GitHub Action, it is the tool that will automate the building, testing, and deploying of our application whenever we make change into our main branch. So we shall see all these in action. Let's start by containerizing this application using Docker. To start, you need to create a folder and name it Docker. Docker, like this. Actually, this is not a Docker course, but if you need to learn Docker, I recommend you to watch this YouTube video from Tech with Nana about Docker. She explains more about Docker in a simple way that you can understand. Tech with Nana is actually a DevOps engineer, so she has a lot of skills about DevOps. If you want to learn about DevOps, you can watch her YouTube videos. We created the folder and we name it Docker. The next thing is we need to create a file and name it also Docker within the same folder. We call it Dockerfile. Dockerfile. So within our Dockerfile, this is where we shall write an instruction to install all the dependencies needed for our application to run, such as PHP, PDO, and all the extensions needed for our application to run. So I already have the script that does all this, so I can just get the script and paste it here. Within the Dockerfile, we shall put all the instruction needed for our application to be packaged. And the first thing that we have is we need the environment where our application will be running. So we are using PHP 4, PHP 8.4 Alpine. This is used as the environment to run all the application. And then the next thing is we need to install the dependencies needed for our application to run. And these dependencies include curl, git, unzip, and so on. We need to specify the dependencies. We need these dependencies to be installed. And then the next thing is we need the PHP extension. So we have to install the PHP extensions, and then we have to install Composer. All these will be done automatically within our Docker image. And then we specify the working directory where our application will live. And then we copy the first layer of our application, such as composer.json and composer.log. So after that, the Docker image will run composer install, so it will install the PHP dependencies, and then we shall copy all the folders and the file into our Docker image. So we shall use this copy command. We shall also normalize this so that it can be case sensitive for both folders in macOS or Windows. So this is how it is done. And then we run npm install and npm build. This is to build our assets. And then we give those folders inside our Docker image permissions. So we give them permissions here like this. So this is also part of the permissions. And then finally we shall copy all the commands that are inside our entry point.sh, which we will create after this. We will create here within this file. The entry point.sh actually will have the command that will be run inside our Docker image. And this command will be run when the Docker image is being booted or when we are creating containers from that image. So those commands include caching PHP for optimization, and then also running the application. So we expose the application to port 8000. And then finally, this is the path to our entry point.sh. And then here, these are the commands that will be run so that our application can be booted. If you did not learn about Docker, so these things might look strange, but I recommend you to go and learn Docker and then come and follow along. So if you're following along, I have this script. I have it in my GitHub, and I will make it public so that you can use the same script. You can use the same script so that you cannot run into issues. So the next step is, let's create this entry point.sh. As I said before, the entry point.sh is a script that will contain all the commands we need to run our application. So these commands include optimizing the application, such as PHP artisan cache to cache the application and optimize it. So to do that, we have to create a new file, and then we name it entry point.sh. The same spelling as we created, the same spelling as we had there, entry point.sh, like this. This is a shell command. Let's verify it, it's correct. And then let me paste the code here and explain to you one by one. Within this code, the main thing we have here is clear and rebuild cache in the application with PHP artisan config/clear to clear all the configuration, clear all the cache, and clear routes, clear views. So this is specific to Laravel. If you don't know Laravel, this thing might sound strange to you, but if you know Laravel, these are all the commands needed so that Laravel can be booted, or so that our application can be in production. So I have this script in description also. I have it in my GitHub, and you can get it from the description. You can get it below in the description. Now that we created the two scripts, the Dockerfile and the entry point.sh, I have these two scripts in my GitHub, so I will put the link in the description so that you can use the same code as me here. So the next step is to use this script to build a Docker image out of this. Specifically, we are using the Dockerfile. So to do that, you have to type docker build, and then we give our image a tag, which tag is actually like a name, the name to the image. So I'm calling mine OfficePilot. And then the next step is to give it a prefix. A prefix is like the version of the image. So we say -latest. And then the next step is to locate the Docker file. And how do we do that? We write argument f here. We use the f, and then we specify the location of the Docker image. It is of the Docker file. It is in Docker/Docker file. And then the last argument is the location where our image will be built, and we want it to be built in the root directory. So if you want something to be built in the root directory, you just use dot. Click enter. So our image is being built now. This might take some time. The reason we are building it in our local development is we are testing it here before pushing it to GitHub Actions. That will make sure our scripts are working before using the same script in our GitHub Action to build our Docker image. So our Docker image is built successfully. The next step is, let's run this Docker image. Let's now run this Docker image. And to run this Docker image, you first need to, let's first verify our Docker images. So we do Docker images. So we have these images, and our image was called OfficePilot, and then we gave it prefix latest. So it is here. So to run this Docker image, you need to type docker run, and then specify which port do you want to run your Docker image. So we want to map port 80,000 to port 80,000 in our computer to port 80,000 in our Docker image. To do that, you do -p 80,000 to 80,000 like this. So now we need to specify which Docker image do you want to run. We want to run this Docker image, and then click enter. So our Docker image is being run, and then we will be given a container, a Docker container. So we have now a Docker container running on localhost port 80,000. So this is our application actually running on Docker container port 80,000. So our application is now running on localhost port 80,000. Let's verify that. To verify that, localhost port 80,000, and we have our application successfully running. Our application is now being served from our Docker container, and the Docker container is hosted within our local computer. So the next step is that we want to build this Docker image not from our local computer. We already verified that it works, the script is working in our local computer. So we need to use GitHub Action to automate this process and build the Docker image within GitHub, and then pushes the Docker image into Docker Hub so that we can use that Docker image for deployment. So this is a very great step that we reach. The next step is we will be talking about GitHub Action. We'll be working with GitHub Action to do the automation.